All right. Just give me 1 second, guys. We're on right here. Live, 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 and go live. There. Good. Cool. And that's gonna cut down. Good. We're on. Anyhow, I'm gonna do this real quick. Well, okay, I got the 30 minutes. The game's on, as you can see what I'm cheering for, Oilers. So starts it's on now, but by the time they get through all the preliminaries, hockey will start at 6:30. So anyhow, I had a talk planned for tonight. Also, Oilers, and it's also a lot of you guys know in Alberta, it's Pride. So I got my Pride shoes on. So Oilers Pride. That's a trick on words, just in case you didn't get it. Anyhow, so um, again, a topic. I know somebody else said they'd join us in, but that's fine. If they don't, they don't. This is recorded again, Zoom. I'll post that on Facebook, Zoom Live. It stays on for about 30 days and then it comes down. So that's why I like this. Also, I do post things on my YouTube channel as well. So if you don't get it one place, other, and I think one week I might try to do Zoom, Facebook, and YouTube Live at the same time. Ooh. Anyhow, so I was thinking about this week. I don't work in my store anymore. I'm there. I teach, look up the run club and events, and I just pop in the store and sell shoes some once in a while because I like doing stuff for free. And but there's a new employee, and sort of did a gait analysis with him because new employee doesn't really know, right? And I've been thinking about this a lot. This is like one of my main topics is finding the right shoe for the right customer and what we normally do and how I changed things when I started working in the store. Because you think about this stuff, right? It's okay. That's maybe I'm strange. That's all I think about is this shoes run club 24/7. I'm a running room employee. It doesn't go away. But just talking and thinking about that because you guys, most everybody knows the gait analysis that we do, right? We watch people stand. We'll do I don't know if I can do this in here. I'm outside, by the way. Stand. We'll have them do a knee bend, right? Which is kind of cool. What we're doing when we watch that is where the knees line up. Your knees collapse inward because that tells us you probably pronate. Some people have people stand on one foot. You can't see this on either screen. To see that, I don't like that. I don't agree with that at all. We watch people walk, and some people have people lunge. I like the lunge thing. The thing about the lunge, and actually the thing about what we're actually supposed to be doing, is watching what happens to people when they run. Right? Walking and running is not the same thing. I'll say there's a difference there. That's windy in here. That's why I got this up here. But it's different. Um, you can notice a few things walking. You can't see the pronation for sure, either over or under, extremely over or under. But you know, see it more when people run. And it's not just that. It's not just watching people do that. I always think that's a little bit simple. It's because it's not. What I always tell people, especially when I was working at the store, managing the store, I would tell new employees, ask a lot of questions. When you see a customer come in carrying a pair of shoes or look like they're going to buy a pair of shoes, start asking as soon as they come in the store. Um, Injuries, how long they've been running for, what their goals are, how they feel about the shoes they have, how old are the shoes they have. See that. Sometimes we'll do the tread thing. Again, look at the bottom of their shoes like that. These aren't, I don't usually use these for running, but we'd look at the bottom of the shoe where the tread is worn out. It should be all over the place. It shouldn't be just one side or the other. If it is one side or the other, then we have problems. Um, talk about shoes, talk about running, talk about their goals, and just talk to them and get the feel for what they want and what they're looking for. Because there's so many things like pronation is a really interesting thing. When I first started running, pronation was bad. It was awful. If you pronated, oh my God, you're going into motion control shoes to prevent you from rolling in at all. Motion control shoes eventually really sort of faded away. There's some people that still need them, but the thinking now is instead of stability and motion control, for stability and motion control, stability shoes are for people that pronate as well, is more working with your feet, working with your knees, working with the body. It's that simple. And that's one thing that's really changed. And things have changed over the years. We've gone from shoes that in the 70s or the 80s and 90s that were really had lots of cushioning in them to almost none to now we're sort of going back to more cushioning. You'll see there's I don't have my shoes with me, but Hokas are really changed the way that things have changed. But also the other thing that's changed too, I'm going to think about Hokas. The people that are designing shoes now are people that actually run. Hokas were designed by two um, French runners who run in the French Alps. Miko and I can't remember the other guy's name, but they design shoes as runners because they're runners. They're designing shoes for themselves and say, hey, let's share these. And it's interesting the way they design them, lots of cushioning. And I love their thought process. We always think running is stopping, or as trying not to stop, right? I'll talk about overstriding in a few minutes, but we stop as long as you're running outside, unless you're not running in zero gravity. Every time your foot hits the ground, second, you stop. It's a series of stops and starts, not a continuous motion. But Hoka's idea was to have you continuous, like riding a mountain bike down the side of a mountain, right? That's the thought they wanted. And they sort of got that. There's a thing they have in their shoes called a midfoot rocker, and it sort of really works. If you ever try on a Hoka shoe, there's different ones in the midfoot rocker. I moved a little bit for some of them. Some have more, some have less. But some people feel like they're rolling backwards, but they're actually designed to push you forward. So, and really comfortable shoes, but not for everybody. On's designed by Swiss runners from the Swiss Alps. And again, they came up with different shoes. I don't have my shoes. I may grab my shoes in a few minutes, but just show you what the differences are. So the shoes have changed. Brooks, I think, was the first one to decide that, okay, stability, motion control. Yeah, we want the shoes to guide the feet, work with the knees, not force anything. Because I've talked about this before. I don't think I could show you guys, but I actually, one side of my foot actually pronates, over pronates, the other one under pronates, and not aggressively. It's not huge, and it doesn't cause me problems. That's the other thing why you ask people that are buying shoes, are you injured? Have you been injured? Or is that why you're looking for new shoes? Quickly about injuries. If you're coming to the store with an injury and you're thinking a shoe's going to fix that, no. It may make you feel better, but if you've got an injury, get that fixed first and then come look for shoes. We will say that. If somebody does come in our store, I always said, we're not medical professionals. See somebody. Preferably, I'm going to say a physiotherapist. Some people go chiropractors. That's fine if you're more comfortable with that. Doctors, GPs, general practitioners will either tell you to stop running, give you a cream to run. I know I'm generalizing, or a good one will refer you to a physio or somebody that actually works with knees and feet and understands what you're doing. This is going to sound strange, but I like doctors that are younger because most of them are active. Physios are all pretty much active. That's a given. A lot of them that take kinesiology, they have to learn different sports as they go through their training, and they understand what we do. So that helps. One of the ladies I had working for me, one of my coworkers, she was taking kinesiology in school, but she also coaches speed skating and ringette and plains ringette. And the stuff she knew, like I really seriously don't know a lot about track shoes. I just know that they hurt. And I don't know what this is doing. Anyhow, they hurt. I don't know why my mic's not working. Oh, let's try this. Aha, that's working now. They hurt. They're built to hurt. They're built to fit tight. But they just work with your feet. And it's interesting. If you ever get to do watch a track meet or a track where there people are racing with track shoes, the Olympics are coming up in July. Watch that. First of all, the reason they take the shoes off as soon as they finish because they do hurt. They're really, really tight, but they let the feet do what they're supposed to do. And what you're going to see when you see people run, like everything is heel to toe, right? And if you don't do that, you're doing something wrong. Well, it's not. It's like an upside down S. You start on one side, then the other, then pronate, and then push off. Okay, sure, whatever. I don't know what that means. This is crazy. I'm not sure what this is doing. Whatever. Hopefully that's working. Hopefully you guys can hear me. I'm just going to say if anybody's on the Facebook Live. Anyhow, yeah. So that's how your feet move. Think about an upside down S. So like when I say people might wear their shoes off on one side and the other, it should actually be all over the place. And frankly, a lot of people, when they bring in shoes to buy new shoes, their shoes are pretty much worn out at the bottom anyhow, so you can't tell anything from that. So that's why we have them walk. Treadmill, if we had a treadmill in our store, would I use it? Possibly. But two things about treadmills. If the people that you're trying shoes on has never been on a treadmill, it's going to take 10 to 15 minutes for them to feel comfortable enough to run naturally on a treadmill. And also the guy watching is going to have to understand what he's looking at, or that person's looking at. I've done a treadmill test at our Glenn Sather Sports Medicine Clinic at the university here. Bonus. That was the best thing I've ever done. It cost me about, I think, $200. And I was connected to electrodes and stuff and had somebody watch, and we're comparing to other runners, like hundreds of other runners. And by telling them they were done, I've been told all my life I need stability shoes, or at least maybe even motion control shoes. They said, and the guy I talked to, he actually knew who Bill Rogers was and actually met Bill Rogers. If you don't know who Bill Rogers is, Google him. But Frank Shorter and those guys, yeah, if you know those names, you're good in my books. And he said, neutral shoes, you're good for that. So, yeah. Anyhow, that was good, and I was glad I did that because I'd have I do this. I try different people to test shoes and test feet. I like because I that's what I do. And I went to one of our physios, which I really loved, but she had me walk over this like an iPad. And okay, what's going on here? An iPad, and why is this not going their way? That's weird. Okay, it's not working. There we are. Anyhow, an iPad, and she said basically I needed motion control shoes and almost orthotics. So who do I go with? The guys that I know their stuff, or someone that's sort of maybe knows a little bit, but not really. And so that's what I'm saying. And the other thing, when you find shoes, that's why we ask questions. And also when you come in to try shoes, have lots of time, but also talk a lot. When you try a shoe on, tell me what you like about them, what you don't like about them. I used to always bring out like 3 pairs of shoes to start with, 3 very different shoes. I would see what the people should want and would work. And then from those 3 shoes, I would try to decide where we go next after listening to what they say. And then I start bringing a couple more shoes. Never go more than 6 shoes. If you go beyond 6 shoes to try on, you're going to forget what the first shoe felt like. I've had people where they start pointing at random shoes on our wall and saying, "Can I try that? Try that? Try it." And I'll say no, because that's not going to work. And then you have to explain that all over again. And I've had people like, well, actually, I've never had this. I've walked in on this sort of thing where people are trying like 10 pairs of shoes, and they're just randomly don't know what they want. After about 6, I would say if you're not sure, 2 things. One, either pick one that you actually think works the best, take it home, run on a treadmill. If it's a certain type of shoe, you might be able to run outside with them. Most shoes we have indoors for 30 days, but some, like Brooks, for instance, outdoors for 90 days. Doesn't indoors or that doesn't matter. Every so often we'll have a special deal where you can do that with every shoe, but just try them out for a day, even just around the house on a treadmill, indoor track. Or if you do take them outside, make sure we can't tell they've been gone outside. And I'm going to say that's really hard to do, but and try them. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't hurt to bring a pair of shoes. Never be afraid to bring a pair of shoes back. I'm going to say that's I'm going to say because you're in the shoe store even for half an hour, that's not enough, right? You don't know, but find that shoe. Or if you're overwhelmed, say, well, I would probably ask you if you want to leave and come back another day and we'll start again. Because don't be overwhelmed. Once you get that point, you're not going to be happy with what you buy. Again, when you come into buying shoes, wear the socks you're normally going to wear. Don't say I normally wear a thicker or thinner sock, because that's not going to work. Wear shorts, something I can see your knees with, um, and your ankles as well. And then just prepare to talk. Think of me as like a doctor, and I want to hear your entire history. And don't leave stuff out. And maybe even, yeah, just everything. But then when we start talking about shoes, we got to talk about what the shoes do, right? And that's where the biomechanics thing comes in. The most important thing, we always say, the one thing we always say is when you land on your front foot when you're running, because you're basically jumping from foot to foot. When you land on your front foot, you're landing on, say, 2 to 3, some say 5 times your body weight on that foot. It doesn't matter. 2%, 2 times, 5 times, it's just as significant. But what your feet are really trying to do really quickly is balance. That's the key. That's where the injuries happen. It's not the hitting, because our bodies are built like shock absorbers, right? Our knees, our ankles, our whole body is built to absorb shock when we move. Do we need more cushioning for our shoes to augment that? That depends on you, but that's fine. That shock is fine, but it's a balance. If you're every time you hit the ground with that front foot and you're trying to get your balance and your body's trying to balance, you're going to get injured. That's where the knee problem comes in, the hips. It may be everything else. We always had different machines in our store to measure, again, pronation, underpronation, and they were kind of good, but we had a New Balance one where you had to sort of put pressure on. Well, that's not moving, right? That's not what your feet are doing. We had one that would measure like a 3D of your foot and say, okay, you got a high arch. You're probably rolling outward. High arch doesn't mean rolling inward, it means rolling outward. And again, that didn't work. I had to talk to people, and actually we gave up on both machines and ended up just doing us, because it usually was quicker and more accurate. But that balance. So that's why we're having you do stand on one foot, fine. I'm going to say that the lunge is probably even more important, just to see what happens. The squat, the bending your knees collapsing in. Yeah, that's not a great thing either, but it's what happens. And again, knowing what you do when you run. If you're a brand new runner, yes, that's going to be really important. If you've been running for, say, a year, you're going to know, you're going to have a better idea what you're looking for. We used to talk about different types of shoes too. We talked like beginner shoes, transition shoes to a shoe for more experienced runners. Yeah, that's fine. I mean, that's fine. You have to spend $300 a pair of shoes if you're just starting out. Do you need carbon fiber if you're just starting out? No. Just get a good shoe. Get a good shoe that works, and the one that you won't get hurt in, right? That's simple. Again, injured, don't figure the shoes are going to help, but shoes will prevent an injury. I will say, I don't like the fact that we're getting more and more cushioning in our shoes. A little bit is fine. Too much, nah. It doesn't make it easier, maybe. But I think sometimes that bounce is great. There's a shoe Brooks has called the Glycerin I love. Ghost is about the same. It's got a little bit of I call it energy return. So every time you take a step, you sort of feel that little bit of energy return. Does it make you faster? No, I think it prevents injuries a bit. But we used to run in racing flats at races. Like we used to have shoes that we would train in, like again, me with motion control and stability shoes. Then we'd go do marathons and we'd go to a flat, racing flat, and then I'll get injured. So they finally said, use the shoes you're training to run in. Now it's sort of gone the other way. We've gone from like having training shoes, and then there's this new thing called carbon fiber, which you probably have heard of. Does carbon fiber make you faster? The jury's out. There was this thing where a fast runner already, he was just almost at 2 hours for a marathon, and they put him on a 26.2 mile route. They made sure everything was perfect for him. It wasn't a race. There was no wind against him. There was like people. I guess he had pacers, and he broke 2 hours in a pair of shoes that had carbon fiber plate, which is just a midsole part of the shoe. It's carbon fiber, and yeah, I find them uncomfortable. I don't like them. But the idea was, was that the reason it was faster? Yes, if he's that close to making breaking 2 hours, yes, it would. If you're training for Boston and you're like a minute off your qualifying time, yes, that shoe probably would make a difference. If you're normally like a 4 hour marathoner or just starting out, do you need that? No. And also the thinking about carbon fiber now is that it doesn't make you faster. It just makes you faster more consistently. So there's always ebbs and flows, right, in your speed during a race. Even the elites have the same thing. And the shoe would just, instead of get rid of that, your feet don't get as tired, you don't get as tired. Your legs don't get as tired as they would in a normal shoe. But what a lot of running companies are saying now is buy a shoe for your training. So a shoe that's almost like the carbon fiber, but without the carbon fiber. So that's going to be like, I'm going to say 160 to $200. Then also buy a pair of shoes with carbon fiber plated in them, which is almost $300, and just use the carbon fiber for maybe your hard workouts, your faster workouts, and for races, and use the other shoe for everything else. And if everything balances out, because I can't say the life of the shoe is going to be about the same, but you're going to have two pairs of shoes wear out at the same time, another almost 600, $700, right? If you're doing this for fun, I know my wife would probably divorce me if she found out I spent that kind of money on shoes. I sort of do, but you don't need to really. And carbon fiber is different. Every shoe has a different idea what carbon fiber is. Some have the entire midsole as carbon fiber. Some is just half the shoe is carbon fiber. Some has a sort of envelopes your feet. Some don't. So it's different. And also there's now a glass fiber or nylon fiber shoes as well. Is that going to be a game changer as well? It's just one tries something and then everybody else follows along. Brooks is doing something different. Saucony is doing different. It's just I'm going to say it's personal choice, but it's like there's different things. There's other thing about shoes too is just remember shoes have there's called some people call it the drop. I like the offset, and some call it grade, I guess, or ramp. And all it is you can't tell from the outside of the shoe. You can't actually tell from the outside of the shoe. It's inside the shoe, the insole, the height of the back of the shoe to the front of the shoe, right? Is there an angle? Is there like 2 millimeter difference? Is there like a 5 millimeter distance? Saucony is usually around 8. Some of the shoes are 4. Ultras are supposed to be 0, but they've come up with a 6 millimeter offset, which is interesting for them because they always brag about being 0. Hoka's different. Some are 6. Asics I haven't really looked lately, but they're usually about 10 or 11 millimeters. And there's the two things. First of all, if you have Achilles problems, maybe go for a little bit of a higher offset. So the 10, 11 millimeter. If you're fine with that, the rest is going to be comfort. Some people thought the offset would make a difference in heel strike, right? If you got a shoe that doesn't balances out a bit, you're going to mid strike with a lower lower ramp or whatever is going to force you misstep as opposed to heel. I'm going to say biology has more to do with that than the shoes. I don't think that matters. Let's talk about that. No, midfoot strike versus heel strike. I'm really, okay, what happened here? Facebook went away. No, it's still there. Good. Hopefully we kept recording. Anyhow, there was again a few years ago. I don't know if it's still going on. Oh, you have to be midfoot strike. If you're not, you're going to get injured. You can't be heel strikers. No, can't do that. And I run behind runners a lot, and I'll watch people, especially if I'm teaching an insert in a clinic or I run with my run club on Wednesday nights, and I'll see where people land. Yes, some are midfoot strikers and land flat foot on their feet. Most people heel strikers. And it's funny thing too is people that swear they're midfoot strikers are actually mostly heel strikers, and heel strikers that claim they're heel strikers a lot of times are midfoot strikers. There's a shoe called Newton, which you may have heard of. We don't carry it at the running room. It's just a specialty thing. And actually, I love the guy that designed the shoes. I can't remember his name. Absher. Anyway, he lives in Boulder, Colorado, and he wants a more athletic position when you run. So he's big on midfoot strike. His shoes almost designed for, they have a higher heel rather than a lower heel. And it actually, just the design of the shoe, and it more prevents almost toe strike. And actually, if you talk numbers, I'm going to say last numbers I saw, about 50% of people are heel strikers. 25 to, I'm going to say more than that, probably more like 30 to 40% are midfoot strikers, and then the rest are toe strikers. Toe strikers are unique. I don't see a lot of them. Usually when you see a toe striker run, or if somebody comes to my store and his toes walks on their toes, usually a dancer, boxer, just the way they are. Is anything wrong? No, I feel toe runners are a little weird. You'll see that on hills. People run uphill and do their toes as well, which you shouldn't. You should actually hit your heel every so often on every step, but because you want the full foot plant, right? But you don't want to get injured. But is anyone wrong? No, as long as your feet stay beneath your center of gravity. So always lead with your knees. Don't let your knees go past the center of gravity, foot down. Short strides, not longer strides. Used to think when we ran, longer strides make you faster. No, they just wear you out quicker. So, and also if you watch track races, marathons, okay, that was fun. Track runners especially. A lot of people see like the 100-meter guys, like our guy, DeGrasse. When you watch him run, he actually gets criticized for running. He doesn't have perfect form, but he's winning gold medals, so who cares, right? But like, how can you criticize that? Oh, he's just won a gold medal, but he was running out. His form wasn't perfect. He won. Who cares? But you watch them, and it looks like they're taking wide strides, but watch where their feet land. Their feet land right beneath their center of gravity. We'll talk about this maybe next week. I'll talk about the drills. I can maybe have room out here to actually show you guys, but we do a thing called the ABCD skips. Drills. Drills are interesting. I'll talk really quickly about drills. Drills are great if you're always going to do them. If you're just going to do them once a month, once a year, yeah, you have to do them all the time. Because that you work on your form, right? I will talk about form in a second. But high knees is the ace. I think I'm not sure I'm gonna get these right or not. And yes, those are the lilacs in my building here. Anyhow, so yeah, high knees is this way. Butt kicks, I think those are the C skips. We used to think hit your butt. No, you just want to make sure your heel comes beneath your butt. And then there's the B skips. I don't know a proper term for them that makes sense. I could say it's like rolling a keg of beer underneath a bench, like that. It's like a kick and drag, kick and drag. And what those three actually do, sort of exaggerate the stride, right? Other thing, there's a coach online who talks about running, and he says running's not a circle. It isn't. It isn't. A lot of times when I'm running, I think of like riding a bike. I want my foot to be on the bottom of the bike riding a bike as short as possible. I want to keep it moving, right? So when I run, I think about that touch and lift, touch and lift. It's not a circle, but if you watch the way the guys run, I think I'm going to say the 400 meters are probably marathon or runners or sprinters are probably the best to watch because they have really neat strides, and it's really exaggerated. Feet always land beneath them. They do the S. They don't do heel strike. They don't do midfoot. It's just the way the foot works. And there's that kick. And the kick actually drives them. So that drives them forward faster. Foot drags down beneath them. Right. So that's a B skip, right? And the high knee sort of starts that off, then a kick, drag, and then there's a follow through, which is the butt kick or the C skip. I can't remember what the D skip was, but anyway, that's if you watch that, try to think about mimicking that when you run, unless you're going to do lots of drills. Now, the thing about running is there a wrong way to run? That's where a lot of this comes down to, because that's where injuries happen, right? Is if you start changing things too harshly, you will get injured. If you see people that run perfect form all the time, they've been running that for a long time. A lot of times it's guys that have people that have taken, I'm trying to stop saying the word guys. If people running uh in high school, maybe university, that have been coached, like here in Edmonton, the indoor games, that it's amazing. If you get to watch kids do track, it's worth watching. But they've been coached for 4, 5, or 6 years. Of course, their farm's going to be perfect. A lot of us, though, it's not going to be. It's not just not going to be. It's maybe the Phoebe run, if you watch Friends, that's maybe an exaggeration, but there's no real wrong way to run it. If you don't get injured, if you're moving forward, yes, there's some things to pay attention to, but otherwise, it's again, I think most of you guys have heard me talk about a guy here in Edmonton called Big Lou, and he's like 6'7" or something, mostly arms and legs. And if you watch them run, he's doing like everything wrong. It's but he's fast. He doesn't get tired that quickly. He runs like triathlons, right? Ironman. So he's fine. And he's really is unique watching him run. I remember one night I was running in the River Valley here at Edmonton. It was nighttime, it was sort of dusk. I was one on the side of the river. He was on the trail on the other side. I could tell it was him, just the way he ran. And in fact, I wish I don't know if I still got this video of the finish at Ironman Penticton. And Ironman Penticton is really neat. The finish is amazing if you get a chance to watch it because you're running in the dark for most of us to get to the finish line. And maybe last 100 feet, not even that, is lit up like Disneyland, right? And you come through and you hear that voice, warning you're at Ironman, which is really cool, by the way. But I'm watching this guy in the dark before he hits that. I can tell it's him before he hits that, just the way he's running. So it's fine. And there used to be Brooks used to have, I don't know if it was a picture or a video. I think it's just pictures of the top 10 runners crossing a finish line, I think at Boston or New York. Everyone had a different thing. There's different things. Some are heel strikers, some are midfoot strikers, some are, I don't remember toe strikers. Some are wearing calf sleeves, compression socks. Some weren't, and they all finished like within seconds of each other, the top 10. So that tells you a lot. Other sports, yes, I think having the right biomechanics, having the right form is important. Like cross-country skiing, swimming, biking makes a difference. Running, I'm going to say, as long as you keep your head up, look straight ahead. You don't have to look straight ahead all the time, but your head up looking about 20 feet ahead of you, or 20 meters, let's say feet. 20 foot, keep your shoulders loose, arms moving back and forth. Like, where do your arms have to go? As long as there's resistance, move forward. Make sure you're breathing. So chest high. Some people feel like you got a string pull on the top of your head. It's more leaning forward a little bit from your ankles. If you can do that, because running is actually a controlled fall. Yeah, but don't even think about that. Knees never go beyond your center of gravity. Never heel strike. Because when you heel strike, what happens is you're overstriding. So yeah, so if you heel strike beneath you, that's genetics, that's biology, that's fine. But as soon as your feet go ahead of your center of gravity, heel strike, that's bad. It just will set a shock up your body. And yes, I said it was like everybody's built like shock absorbers, but there's problems with that. Your propulsion changes a bit, and eventually maybe you get tired quicker. And you always want to feel you're moving with gravity. So that's why the lean forward a little bit. But leaning forward from your ankles takes a lot of practice. Just think about it when you're running. Make sure it's from your ankles, not from your waist, not just your body leaning forward, but from your ankles. There was a fuss years ago. There was a thing called pose running, and that's what that was really, is the proper way to run. I may attach. I don't have the video on my MacBook, but I'll post it somewhere. It's a friend in our store, actually coworker. She was a triathlete, an amazing triathlete. Now she's into cyclocross, and she also just got her Rhodes Scholarship, she's smarter than me. But it's just showing how to run. And one of our coaches, Coach Glenn, was holding the back of her jacket, and she's leaning forward. Let's go. That's how you're supposed to feel. It's like a controlled fall, but it's really hard for us to do that, right? That's why hills, I talked about hills last week. That sort of will teach you to do that. Will teach you breaking your form. So hill repeats, not even hill repeats, just running hills. Of course, that has undulating hills. That'll help your form. But anyhow, so that's sort of the idea. The trick is not to get injured. That's probably the biggest thing. Is there a wrong way to run? Other thing I want to talk about real quickly too. Don't ever let anybody tell you, like, there's this thing, right, where people say they've come home after a race or to work after a race, tell their buddies they did a 5K marathon. And there's always that doofus that says, well, marathons are 26.2 miles. Marathon is just a word. That's a secret. Don't ever let anybody put you down for what you've done. Because 5K marathon, sure, for you, it's your marathon. Yes, marathon is 26.2 miles, 42K. Big deal. There's so many terms, marathons, half marathons. I hate the word half marathon because you're gonna get, well, couldn't you done all of it? It's still 13 miles, buddy. Um, there's ultra marathon is really probably my favorite term in the world because there's ultra marathons that are 50 miles, 50K, 100K, 100 miles, 126K, 136K, 200K. So if somebody says they did an ultra marathon, that's just a word. Triathlon, there's Olympic, there's sprint, there's half Ironman, there's full Ironman, there's long course triathlons, which are the same distance as Ironman, but people quibble about that. Well, it's not Ironman. It's the same distance. It doesn't matter. It's just a word. So yeah, don't ever let anybody say that. Again, eventually, person that says I did a 5K marathon, maybe that's their first 5K, they'll eventually figure out 26.2 miles is a marathon. But it doesn't matter. You're running as long as you're moving forward. Who cares? I don't correct. I don't care. I'll just say congratulations. When's your next race? That's important. Anyhow. It's 6:30 hockey time. Again, I thought somebody was going to join me on here, but we're still just down to me, unless you're on Facebook, which would be cool too. But I'm going to post this. I'm going to keep doing Mondays. Next Monday, I want to talk about visualization. I want to talk about this part, about your run, but also I want to talk about effort too at the same time. We'll talk a little bit of watches. And again, I'm going to be here every Monday. So if you want a specific topic, and I'd like to see a lot of people, I want to bring in a nutritionist. Her name is Morgan. Some of you will know who I'm talking about, because I'd like to get more specific topics. I'd like to get somebody like her to come on. What's that? That sounds like a smoke alarm. Anyhow, I'll talk. Hopefully, it's not my house. Anyhow, so we'll talk next week. Feedback. I want to hear feedback, and we'll talk next week. Have go Oilers, by the way. And this shirt's supposed to be small. It fits. Anyhow, go McDavid.